Hello, my friend. Max Lucado here from my home to yours. It's about time to turn that calendar page from one year to the next. About time for me to take that Christmas tree down too. If you're anxious about the future, you're not alone. There is reason for fear, but there's even more reason for faith. So as we say goodbye to one year and hello to the next, can I urge you to face the future with faith? Just give me about 10 minutes. And I think we can be reminded of some important messages. On the eve of his crucifixion, Jesus told his followers what was going to happen the next day. He told them that he would be abandoned, that he would be killed. It would be a day of denial and broken promises and death. What news could be worse for the apostles? Their rabbi dead? The apostles alone? Their dreams dashed? Don't you know that questions rose in their minds like waves on a stormy sea? How can this be? What can we do? What will we do? Yet before they could voice their fears, Jesus comforted their concerns. John 14, do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and I will take you to be with me so that you also may be where I am. John 14, 1 through 4. Did you see what Jesus did? He lifted their eyes. He shifted their thoughts. He spoke about his Father's house. He told them of a prepared place, and he talked about his promised return. He urged them to think less about their immediate fear and focus more on their eternal home. In other words, he empowered them to face the fears of the present with faith in the future. What do you suppose Jesus would say to our troubled generation? Would he not urge us to think long and hard about the life to come? Hope it's an endangered species these days. We're more troubled than we've been in nearly 50 years. I read a survey the other day that said that only 14% of the respondents consider themselves to be very happy. We're less optimistic about the future than we've been in 3 decades. Another survey said nearly 1 in 4 people, which is 1 billion people, would describe themselves as very or fairly lonely. So happiness is down, loneliness is up. Optimism has taken a right hook to the chin. Most alarming is the absence of peace among our young people. A staggering 91% of people born after 1996 report feeling symptoms of depression and anxiety. According to the American Psychological Association, this is the worst mental health of any generation. And the suicide rate is the highest it's been since 1941. Now, maybe to a certain degree you can relate. Maybe your heart has been broken. Maybe your dreams have been shattered. Maybe your body, even right now, is battling disease and aging. And maybe you've honestly wondered if this life is worth living. Well, God's therapy for such difficult days reads like this. For our present troubles are small and they won't last very long, yet they produce for us a glory that vastly outweighs them and will last forever. So we don't look at the troubles that we can see now. Rather, we fix our gaze on the things that cannot be seen. For the things we see now, they will soon be gone. But the things we cannot see, that will last forever. That's in 2 Corinthians 4, 17 and 18. In other words, face the problems of this life by focusing on the promises of the next. The future's not as frightening if you know the future. And you can know the future when you know who controls it. On the day that Jesus ascended into heaven, there were 2 angels that appeared to the followers. And they asked the watching followers this question. Men of Galilee, why do you stand here looking into the sky? This Jesus who has been taken up from you into heaven will come back in just the same way You have watched him go into heaven. Acts 1 and verse 11. Jesus will come back. Not may come or might come or possibly could come. Jesus will come. His promised return is not some nebulous, vapid, cross your fingers and hope it happens aspiration. It is a concrete, guaranteed appearance of our Savior. You know, Peter spent most of the rest of his life, his remaining years, living in Jerusalem. And I have to wonder how many times he meandered out to the Mount of Olives from which Jesus ascended into heaven. And how many times he reflected on the words of the angels. He will come back. Did he search the skies? Did he investigate the clouds? Did he reflect on the angel's promise? He will come back in the same way you watched him go. Well, 3 decades later, he urged his readers to do so. He wrote, "Fix your hope completely on the grace to be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus." 1 Peter 1 and verse 3. You see, the Christian lives life on tiptoe, ever searching the skies. We awaken with the thought, perhaps today, our hope is centered on the bodily return of Christ. He is our hope. He is our reason for joy. He is our source of encouragement. We are looking to that new day in which Jesus will be crowned as the rightful King, and we will serve as his grateful servants. All of history is headed toward that great day in which Jesus will inaugurate an endless era of justice and joy and glory. In one of his earliest sermons, Peter declared, "The Lord will send Jesus, the one he chose to be the Christ. But Jesus must stay in heaven until the time comes when," look at this, "all things will be made right again." That's in Acts chapter 3. Why don't you take a hold of that promise with both hands? Don't let go. Things will be made right again. Does that assurance not speak to your heavy heart? Are you weary of racism? Well, things will be made right again. Are you weary of child abuse? Well, things will be made right again. Are you weary of terrorists, wreaking terror, rulers, pillaging the poor, or scandal infecting the church? Things will be made right. This is our hope. He is our hope. God has not kept the future a secret. Let's follow the counsel of Peter. Let's fix our eyes on that hope, the hope that we have in Jesus. I disagree with the person who says we can be so heavenly minded that we are no earthly good. That's crazy. Heaven is exactly what we need. Thoughts of heaven feed the spirit. We need hourly gazes into the life to come. You need to think about what your departed loved ones are doing. I need to meditate long and deeply on the New Jerusalem. We all need to focus on that moment and envision that moment in which we will see the face of God. Let's be consumed with things above. I recently did a sermon on end times at our church, and a man asked me, "Why are you focusing so much on heaven? Why are you talking about the future?" I'm a carpe diem sort of dude, Max. I'd rather focus on the here and now. Well, I guess that's a valid point. We do have bills to pay and kids to raise and deadlines to meet. Do we need to occupy our thoughts with the not yet when we need strength to face the right now? Well, I think Jesus would tell us to do so. Did you know that a full 30% of his teachings had to do with heaven or hell or the events that will signal the final age? 30%. If he made end times a priority, shouldn't we do the same? Besides, don't we yearn to know about the future? Boy, I do. I am genuinely curious about what's next. Chalk it up to getting old. You know, my hourglass has a lot more sand on the bottom than it does in the top. Hair's getting grayer, hair's getting thinner, bald spot's getting bigger. Consequently, thoughts about what's next, well, they populate my mind. I know, that's a bit odd. Some people take up gardening or painting as they get older here. Lucado has taken up questions about Armageddon, the Antichrist, the return of Jesus. I guess I just really, really want to know what's around the corner. I'm curious about the future. And I'm concerned about the present. I mean, who wouldn't be? As I capture this message, right now we're under the threat of conflict with Iran, Russia, China, or all three. Israel is in Gaza. Hezbollah is rattling sabers. A group of scientists monitor the possibility of global catastrophe, and their report was released with this headline: we're 90 seconds to midnight. 90 seconds to midnight. These are eerie days in which we live. There's reason to be concerned. There's conflict on every continent. And morality? Don't you agree with me? Society seems to be sinking into a cesspool of decadence. Did you know the fourth most popular website in the United States is Pornhub? Right behind Google, Facebook, and YouTube is a site that displays decadence and exploits women to the tune of 2 billion hits a day. We can only imagine the impact that this addiction is having on our society. It's quite a mess. It's no wonder that 4 in 10 Americans believe that we are living in end times. And we're looking at a very severe future. Yet, dear friend, Jesus told us this would happen. And we have a choice. We can view these circumstances through the eyes of fear or through the lens of faith. The eyes of fear see little or no reason for hope and ample reason for anxiety. But the lens of faith sees history inching closer and closer and closer to the new era, a heavenly destiny. God tells us what to expect, never to scare us, but to prepare us. He's like the pilot on the intercom telling the passengers about impending turbulence. You know, a good pilot keeps his travelers informed, and our good Father does the same. Between now and the end of the age, we can expect turbulence, but we can also anchor our hope in this: our pilot will get us home safely. The Apostle Paul said, I focus on this one thing. Forgetting the past and looking forward to what lies ahead, I press on to reach the end of the race and receive the heavenly prize for which God, through Christ Jesus, is calling us. Philippians chapter 3, verses 13 and 14. Look at those phrases. Looking forward to what lies ahead. End of the race. Heavenly prize. In other words, the best of life is yet to be. Got some challenges in this life? Then ponder the next life. Let's be future-facing followers of Christ. Yeah. These are crazy days, but we have a faithful God. And we can have faith to face the future because we have a Father who's watching over us and will lead us into it. God bless you, my friend.